This week on Quality Digest Live, Joe Humm of Sparta Systems tells us how to develop comprehensive quality capabilities.
Plus, applying process excellence strategies to sales and marketing. That and more when we come back.
This episode of Quality Digest Live is brought to you by Mitutoyo America. Whatever your metrology challenges, Mitutoyo supports you from start to finish.
Welcome back to Quality Digest Live for January 29th, 2016. QDL is your weekly look at who and what is making the news in the world of quality. I'm Mike Richmond, publisher of Quality Digest.
And I'm Quality Digest Editor-in-Chief, Dirk Ducharme. I just want to say that light is amazing.
It's fast, too.
Yes, it is.
It moves very quickly.
Well, that is how NIST physicist Howard Yoon ends his article, Lighting the Way Toward Better Measurements, which appeared in this week's Quality Digest Daily. It first appeared in NIST Taking Measure blog, which, by the way, there's a link out to that blog from this article. It's a new blog by NIST. It's really interesting, kind of a different approach to kind of the tech stories that NIST normally puts out. And this is kind of more first-person stories from the physicists and researchers themselves and stuff. And this one happened to be from Yoon. Well, in this blog, Yoon points out that light is amazing because it is the basis for or related to almost all measurement standards that industry and technology depend on. I mean, we're talking from seconds to distance, from mass to temperature. In some way, light is involved in all of these. And Yoon writes that our understanding of light and our ability to manipulate it is helping us to improve our understanding of our world and how we affect it. His particular group actually is working to improve temperature sensing based on techniques based on light. So using light as part of a temperature sensing technique, more accurate temperature measurements are going to give us a lower margin of error, and this is going to help climate scientists, for instance, make better models of climate change and better evaluate strategies to address it. In his article, which again I encourage you to read, any science nerd to read, there are some great links out to some really interesting NIST projects involving light. One of my favorite is the ability to build light molecules, building objects out of photons, like a lightsaber.
Can you do that, really?
No, they can't. Darn!
You had me.
But it was close.
You had me, Dirk.
But I mean, but the concept actually is in a sense being able to treat photons as molecules and what you can do with that. Really a fascinating article. He has another link out to another NIST article, which really is, you have to really understand physics. I got lost in this thing, but it looks like it might have been interesting. It's a piece on quantum entanglement.
Interesting, because it entangled you.
Well, it certainly did. I mean, I guess the basic idea is that they send photons two different directions and they behave, even though they should behave independently because they're separated, they don't seem to behave independently. So what does that mean?
There's
some sort of connection between the two photons, and that's this idea of entanglement. And beyond that, I have no idea, and I probably even screwed that up. So if you're interested in this, go ahead and follow the link out there. His article is interesting, but the links he has in them also are just fascinating. So
good stuff, yeah, interesting. And NIST is, I mean, we've run a lot of stuff from NIST, obviously, over the years, and this is one we're going to be keeping our eye on and bringing you, we'll be cherry picking some stuff from that blog and bringing it to you. All right, well, speaking of blogs, as many of you know, Quality Digest has a sister company named 360 Performance Circle, which offers on-demand video training on a variety of topics, such as lean, GD&T, management, and a lot more. The 360PC site, which is conveniently found online, where else? At www.360performancecircle.com, includes a recently launched blog called Training Transformations, and posts on the blog talk about things like continuous improvement, performance excellence, serving customers, management, all that kind of stuff. And the focus really is on how to impart wisdom and share knowledge across your enterprise or to your suppliers. Well, earlier this week, as you can see right there, Jeff Dewar, who's the CEO of Performance Circle as well as Quality Digest, he posted a piece in the blog titled, "You Wouldn't Recognize This Company." And the post offers a unique take on actually one of my personal favorite quotes from Arthur C. Clarke.
Speaking of science fiction.
Speaking of science and science fiction, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. Kind of like quantum entanglement, right?
Right, exactly,
that's magic, right? Well, from there, Jeff postulates what a manager from 100 years ago, or even one from 20 years ago, really, it's interesting, would think of the lean-focused operations of today. Now, the one from 1916, which as Jeff says kind of was the height of Taylorism, right? The one from 1916 would be absolutely astonished at the technology, use of robots and
right.
Internet of Things, everything that a modern facility is using to be more efficient. But the one from 1996, I think, and Jeff makes the point, would be equally surprised and pleasantly surprised by the way that people's talents and ideas are harnessed and how leaders function to coach team members, and tools they use like Gemba Walking and 5S, TWI, and other things. Those are becoming a lot more commonplace, and organizations are reaping the benefits of doing that. And that's kind of how he ties all this together with the bow of training, is that, you have a system now that's complex and is advancing very quickly, but it still comes back to human beings who need to share knowledge with people and train them on things like this, right? And they need to understand that across the enterprise. Really good stuff. And the 360 Performance Circle blog, it's active right now. Again, it's at www.360performancecircle.com. We're updating it with lots of new material on a regular basis. So I think you should go and check it out and come back a lot and look at the new stuff we're doing. Some of the content is going to be shared in Quality Digest Daily, but a lot of it's going to be found only on www.360performancecircle.com. So if you're interested in training, or you just like good, fun, thought-provoking editorial, then the 360 Performance Circle blog is right up your alley. And the nice thing about it is, and I've written a piece for this too, you can be a little more conversational, you can be a little more fun. Quality Digest, we're not a blog. Quality Digest's website we're a media company, right. We put out content every day, but it's not bloggy. There's a difference. The 360 PC blog is a blog, and we're taking very first-person accounts, very personal looks at things we believe in and think about, and as it results, as it reflects on training and sharing knowledge and information. So it's very cool. We like it. So
encourage you to go out there and take a look at it. Well, speaking of traditional business models like Taylorism and all that sort of stuff, everything in that model is pretty much driven by managers. I mean, managers and experts design a system, managers and experts pull in the resources to generate an outcome that they want. They define a process for resources to flow through to generate a quality outcome, and managers and experts, observe the outcome and adjust the resources and the system. So in an environment where management role is to control the system in order to create optimal outputs and optimize margins, how do you introduce and foster innovation, which tends to be a messy, non-optimized, ugly process? I mean, managers, they got to make sure that they're staying on track with their goals, but at the same time, you want to be able to improve and innovate your quality management system in order to do that. Well, Joe Humm, Vice President for Global Sales and Operations at Sparta Systems, is here via Skype to discuss that topic with us. Morning, Joe.
Morning, Nate. Thank you for having me on.
Hey, sure. So that's the big question. How can an organization develop a culture of creativity that not only taps into the knowledge and capabilities of its people, but also gets them engaged in such a way that they care about quality, they care about outcomes, they care about customer experience?
Yeah, it's a great question. And you mentioned Taylorism before, and Taylorism really does tie back to this environment where you've got a manager and group of experts pulling together all the resources, defining the process, and then ultimately measuring the evidence and the outcome, and then perhaps making incremental adjustments to that entire system. And that works very well to manage the world today, right? But if you're looking to create the world of tomorrow, oftentimes you can create a condition for designing that future if you pull your entire group together. And we call them, Edward Stemmings used to call them quality circles. You can call them, big group meetings or what have you. But you bring everyone together, and the leader basically puts a topic out there. And that topic allows everyone to create what we'll call dialogue around that specific topic, where they can start to imagine what the future is, right? And you can begin to use tools such as appreciative inquiry, and you can also use other tools to begin to design out what you want that future paradigm to look like. And as you drive through the process, what happens is everyone feels as though they're involved or they're invested in the development of this new system or this new product or this new business model or whatever it may be. And they're going to become that much more committed to making it work. Not to mention, they're able to share ideas and folks are able to really understand one another on why they're promoting certain elements of an idea and so forth. Well, I'll add this last point is it's important when you bring this group of people together for this dialogue to basically incorporate the concept of mindfulness into the overall conversation. Being mindful of the fact that that person in front of you is invested in solving this problem as much as you are, and that you really want to try to listen to what ideas they're sharing and see how you can build upon one another's ideas to create that better future.
Well, as you were talking, I'm thinking this sounds like two things have to happen. I mean, one is, obviously, the idea of quality circles, cross-functional teams, so on and so forth. That's been around forever, as you mentioned. Deming brought them up. But in order for those to work, management has to buy into the process as well. So how do you sell managers to, relinquish some of this power of the whole design and overseeing and so forth, so that they get behind the power of a cross-functional team or a quality circle?
Yeah, great question. So, there's tools out there, there's toolkits out there that you can ultimately use to drive your organization through this innovation process. So, for example, there's books out there that have been published on design-based thinking, whereby you can outline a customer journey map, right? So if you're sitting together as a group and you're, co-creating a new concept, new idea, new product, you can then drive that new product or concept through a journey, through storyboards, and begin to basically develop what that story or what that product is going to look like. And then what you can do is you can ultimately go out and begin testing it in the marketplace and do it in such a way that it's not incredibly resource intensive, it doesn't cost a lot of money. And then you can use good old-fashioned methods of, business conduct or what have you, of observing, listening, and couple that with the more traditional methods of data collection, evidence gathering, and so forth. And then finally, what you can do is you can use what I'll call the OODA, which is Observe, Orient, Decide, and Act methodology, to then make decisions to bring back to this group or to this cross-functional team to discuss, what specifically happened, what information, what evidence did you gather or garner, and what might you want to do to adjust your storyboard or to adjust your journey map, and then continue that iterative cycle until you feel like you have this new innovation or this new concept that's ready to ultimately start transitioning out of this innovation cycle and more so into the traditional Taylorism type of model that you were talking about before.
Well, Joe, it strikes me as I'm listening to you say that, and you go through those cycles. How do you know when you're done? I mean, it's kind of like painting a picture, right? It's like, how do you know when the brush strokes are ready and you're ready to launch your future state?
Well, I think that's really where leadership comes in, right? So leadership, it's incumbent upon them to know and understand and to sort of drive the ship. Now you've got your whole team invested and everyone understands, what's been developed and they're been involved in the creation of this idea or concept. Now it's really the leader's responsibility to say, okay, when do we start making this transition out of the sort of innovation paradigm and into that more, run mode type of paradigm or Taylorism type of paradigm? And that really is incumbent upon the leader's experience, their feel, their sense, their past experience, their knowledge, the information available. Taking all these different sources into consideration, and then also reaching out to the individuals on the team and understanding what their perspective is. So one can say you're never necessarily done, right? Even in Taylorism, you're still making incremental modifications. But in this paradigm, you ultimately have to decide amongst your team on when is this product or concept market ready, and then shift it out from one paradigm into the next.
Well, Joe Humm, thanks for joining us this morning. We are going to be having a webinar with you guys next Tuesday, a methodology for building a comprehensive quality Capabilities Strategy. That's next Tuesday, February 2nd, 2016 at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. And it's going to be Joe right there, and myself. I'll be the host, and Joe will be the smart guy, talking about everything that he's been talking about right now and a lot more. So be sure to join us for that webinar next Tuesday, 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. Joe, thanks for joining us this morning.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been fun.
Talk to you later.
Thanks, Joe. We'll see you on Tuesday. Good stuff there. And I like the way that he kind of wrapped in Taylorism in that, because it really is kind of the two axes of this thing, is that very top-down element of command and control versus the more quality circles. And of course, we're Quality Circle Institutes. Our
root company,
right? So I mean, this idea that it's going to, whether it's top-down or bubble up. And I think, what he's talking about here is kind of a combination of those two things. You need somewhere in the middle where there is some command and control, but there's also a lot of ideas.
Yeah, that's the value of quality circles or cross-functional teams. That basically is where kind of the two meet.
Yeah, good stuff there. All right, so we look forward to that webinar next week. All right, well, this week we welcomed a new contributor to Quality Digest Daily, and his name was Michael Webb. And his first article, Process Excellence Makes Sales Problems Solvable, appeared in Wednesday's issue of QDD, and you can actually see it right there. We ran it again on Wednesday, and this one, Dirk, it's near and dear to my heart because sales is what I do every day, and process improvement is what we talk about every day, really, in Quality Digest, and I edit a lot of those articles. So, I'm immersed both in the sales process as well as an understanding of what process improvement is all about. So those two things are really near and dear to my heart. Well, Webb considers sales like any other value stream within the organization, and he really uses the same principles for improving it that you would for anything else you would do in your organization. The first thing is he looks at it as integrating it. What he says is that customers see your organization really as a single entity, not as a bunch of departments. They don't really see you as a sales team and then a fulfillment team. They see you as your organization, and sales are a part of the broader thing. So he recommends, of course, integration. The next, of course, is eliminate waste, and sometimes that may actually mean eliminating customers. There's some customers that, as we know, aren't worth it, and we all see that if we're in sales. That some customers, demand a lot more TLC than maybe they're worth in terms of the value, and even though there's not value, there's monetary value, and there's other values. There's no value for some customers that make it worth the while to serve them. And then delivering value, just delivering value across the board is always important, no matter what you're doing, and in sales as much as anything else. Well, in my opinion, this represents something of a standard refrain that we've heard many, many times throughout the quality industry. That's that job or function X, and in this case, Joe, he's talking about sales. Michael's talking about sales. Can't be improved in the same way as production processes because the work is just different, right? I mean, we hear that all the time, and things like this were once said about healthcare as a sector, or the service sector, or transactional environments. All that kind of stuff was said about those things as opposed to manufacturing for many, many years. But of course, now we see, just taking the Baldrige for an example, healthcare is those are the organizations that win the Baldrige these days, are healthcare organizations. So this idea that you can't improve because it's a different process doesn't really hold water. And there was really resistance to quality improvements for all that time, for all those different types of things, and eventually they were mostly overcome. I think from my own experience with sales and improvement activities, I think there's a couple of things here that go into this. I think for me, and things I've had to overcome and look at is this idea about wasting time, fear of wasting time or wasting energy. When you go into something, there's a certain amount of trust you have to have when you're going to go through a process of improvement that it's gonna pay off. But there's an investment that goes into that too at the beginning to make that change. So you have to go into it with a lot of trust and say, I'm going to invest the time, I'm going to invest the energy because it's going to work and save me time and energy in the future. That's one thing that many salespeople are reluctant to do. We're very real-time oriented. We want to be efficient in real time every minute of the day. So, to back up and redesign a system sometimes can be problematic. And then there's doubts about efficacy. Is this going to work, obviously? And then there's a feeling, well, we're doing fine. Our numbers are good right now. You don't really consider opportunity costs very much when you're in sales. You should, but you don't. You say, well, we're hitting our numbers. We're 10% above what our numbers were last year. And as Michael Webb says in this piece, looking at numbers can really be a trap too in many cases when you're in sales, because there's broader perspectives. Again, when you integrate sales within the entire organization, there's a lot more that goes into it other than just making your numbers. It's like, what's the cost for making those numbers? So all this stuff I thought about from what I do in sales. And it's interesting to look at it from that perspective because it does all fit into a broader process improvement.
And is this stuff that you think you can apply?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, like I say, there's no question that it makes sense. What I look at is, why am I not doing it? I mean, why? Again, I'm steeped in this stuff. I understand it. I understand, this thing about retrenching and taking a step back so you can take a lot of steps forward. But it's hard. I mean, there's a resistance to it. And I definitely get that it's different thing that he's kind of referring to there, that it's different. Sales are different. Well, they are different, but they're not.
And also, there's a risk. It's like, oh, I'm selling right now, and if I make this change, am I going to sell? Am I going to backtrack? Well, I know this is working, but if this doesn't work, then I'm going to lose sales. And I mean, there's kind of this financial thing hanging over your head.
But there is in every department. I mean, and on the shop floor, there's the risk of saying, well, we're running pretty efficiently right now. If we make this change, we may not be as efficient. And you might not be for a short period of time. But the idea is you're going to be more efficient in the long term. You're going to pick up that time, that waste, if there is any at the beginning, over the long haul.
Right.
So the idea here really is sales is integrated with everything else, and it makes sense to do it that way. And I think that's really what Michael Webb is saying in that article. All right, well, we're going to move on now because we have kind of the end of the show coming up. We have a really good tech corner for you right now that Dirk is going to show off for you. And it's a client of ours that we've worked with for a while, and they have a product called TrackPath, which is an interesting software product. It's from the good folks at ETQ. And TrackPath really it has some unique features. Dirk is gonna take a few minutes, and he's gonna go through those features with you and kind of show you what TrackPath is all about. Again, it's from ETQ. It's a good it's a software product. Again, this isn't going to be a hardware tech demo like we've done in the past sometimes, but this one will be one that Dirk can show you on his smartphone, I think, and he's also going to show you on his laptop. So Dirk, if you're ready, I'm going to throw it to you. Take it away.
Took me a little bit, and if you notice that Mike was sitting there vamping a little bit.
Well,
it was and is Dirk ready? No. Is Dirk ready? No. Is Dirk ready? No. Hey, I'm ready now. Okay, let's go. Well, as Mike said, this is a product called TrackPath. This is a free app and download available from TrackPath, which, as Mike said, is part of ETQ. And the idea behind it is, any of you who work in teams in working with your quality management system, your QMS, you know that one of the big problems is collaboration, communication. Does everybody know what their action item is? Are they up to date on their action item? Does everybody know what Kappa is going on? Is everybody just on board on the same page? And one of the ways people do that is, let's say, email. Well, email's got its own problems. As you know, your email gets buried in spam, and sometimes you miss it for a day or two. So what people really need, particularly small teams, small companies, is a collaboration tool, and that's what TrackPath is. It's a cloud-based product that you can run on your desktop, your iPhone, your smartphone, your Android, a tablet, whatever, that allows you to kind of communicate everything that's going on in the QMS. It's a very basic organizational tool that works really well. So let's take a look at it. I'm just going to run over here to our screen page here. This happens to be a desktop application of it. You see, this is TrackPath, and you notice I'll just run down through these very quickly. The first item is My Assignments, which is only those action items that are applied to me. Then there's action items, which are all action items that have been entered into the system, and you can sort these in various ways. There's Kappas, and of course there are events. There is some charting that's available that gives you some rudimentary snapshots of all events by a particular type, all Kappas by type, action items by type. It gives you an idea, a very quick overview of maybe where you have particular types of problem areas that you might want to focus on. And obviously there's work groups down here. Now, the way I would use this tool, first of all, let me say TrackPath is not prescriptive. It doesn't make you run it in a certain way. You can run it however you want to run it. Now, the way I would do it is I would start with an event. Maybe it's a product failure or a safety issue out on the factory floor. And from that event, I would probably generate action items and assign those people to do research. And from events and action items, I would have maybe the basis for building a kappa. And then I could go from the kappas and I could keep adding action items and events to that to kind of build on it. That's the way I would use it. You could use it a different way. As I said, it's not prescriptive. But let's just take a quick look at what I would do. So I'm going to create a new event. And I'm going to call it, what kind of event I'm in this? You can define these. I'm pulling from the list that we have here. I'm going to call this, let's say, an inspection failure. And what did we see out on the floor? Well, holes in shoes, let's say. And we have a description of the event. I can add some attachments, like maybe some photos, maybe an action that was taken, used duct tape, all right, to patch holes. Yeah, that might be one thing that they were doing out there to kind of fix that problem. Duct tape's good for a lot of things. And I also want to assign this event an action item. And I'm going to pull from my group of users here. And I'm going to assign this one to myself. I could assign it to anybody, but I'll just assign it to myself for now. And I say done. Now, two things are going to happen. Number one, I get a notification on my screen that this action item has been assigned, and the person it was assigned to gets an email letting them know, hey, you have an action item. Also, when they log into TrackPath, if they go to My Assignments, they're going to see that assignment there in their My Assignments. Now, let's go back to that event real quick that I just created. And I'm going to sort by date. You can sort by a variety of ways here. And I'm going to go back down to that event. And if we do that, we can see that everything I already entered is in there. And actually, I see I didn't save that action item. I made a mistake when I was using this. But let's go to one that I've already created because there's something I want to show you. This is an earlier one I created where I actually used it correctly. And we're going to open up another. So in this particular event that I created earlier, we can see that I created an action item associated with this event. And now I can link out to that action item right here and open it up, take a look at it. I also created a kappa for this action item. And I could continue to add action items in this event or add kappas to this event. And they will continue to populate back out on my events or action items screen. But as well, by opening up that event, it also gives me the ability to see everything about that event. Just by looking at that one event screen, I can see all the action items that were created and drill into them. I can see all the kappas that were created and drill into them, all right here from my desktop or smart device. Now I want to show you the smart device just really quickly here, just to show you that it does work on your smartphone. So we're going to go over to my Android phone right here. I'll open up the TrackPath app. Now in this case, I don't have to enter my my credentials because that's contained in the app itself. So it's just going to launch the app here in just 1 second. And we're going to see basically the same thing that I saw on the desktop. So I can go to, if we look at this side of the page, we see all the same things, action items, kappas, events. I can open up an event, and here's all the events that have been created, including the one I just created. There you go, holes and shoes. And we can open up the event. You see everything there. I can go back. I can open up, let me see, what was the earlier event I was showing you? Shoes don't fit. There we go. And we can see all the same things. There's my links to my action items. There's my links to my kappas. I could create more action items right from the app and so forth. So the nice thing about this tool is that what you have is using your mobile device. Imagine how you could use this. You could go out on the shop floor. Maybe you're out on the shop floor doing your Gemba, and you happen to see some sort of safety issue. Well, right there on your phone, you whip out your phone, you open up TrackPath, a free app, by the way, did I mention that? You open up TrackPath, and you enter in an event, and you enter in a safety event, and you assign it maybe to your safety guy on the floor. Say, hey, Joe, there's a problem here with the forklift operator, blah, blah, blah. He's doing this. You need to take a look at that. Immediately, an action item gets sent out to your safety guy. It gets entered into TrackPath, and there you go. Now you've started the ball rolling, and all in one database, accessible from anybody, they can take a look at this. They can take a look at this event and build on it as they go. So this is really a cool little product, nice little organizational tool. So again, if you're interested in this, you can go out to TrackPath.com. That's TRAQ.path.com, or there's also a link underneath the player page out to it. I think we have the TrackPath name highlighted. Click on that. That'll take you out to TrackPath. And you can download it and work with it yourself. The app, I think you just go to Google Play and you can download the app onto your Android or probably the Apple Store. Download the app onto your phone and use it. It's a great little product. And like I said, it's free. I love free products. They're awesome. Back to you, Mike.
Well, thank you, Dirk. Yes, that is TrackPath from ETQ, and as Dirk mentioned once or twice there, I think it's free. Really good product there from our good friends at ETQ. Dirk, nice job as always on the Tech Corner.
Thank you.
You do such a nice job with that stuff. What
do my best.
What would we do without you? Well, that's our show for this week, but before we go, we'd like to thank our sponsor. Mitutoyo Corporation is the world's largest provider of measurement and inspection solutions, offering the most complete selection of machines, sensors, systems, and services, with a line encompassing CMMs, vision, form, and finishing measuring machines, as well as precision tools and instruments, and metrology data management software. Mitutoyo's nationwide network of metrology centers and support operations provides application, calibration, service repair, and educational programs to ensure that their more than 6,000 metrology products will deliver measurement solutions for their customers. For more information, visit mitutoyo.com or click on the banner just below or just to the right over there of this video player.
That's right. Well, thank you all for joining us today. Just a reminder, we have a webinar next Tuesday, a methodology for building a comprehensive quality capability strategy with Joe Humm and myself. Remember, Joe's the smart guy. I'm just the guy introducing him. And remember, that's next Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific.
That's right. Keep an eye on your email. You can sign up for it below. Joe's article is a link out to sign up for that, and you can also keep an eye on your email. We will be providing an email for you where you can sign up for that webinar as well on Tuesday. All right. Well, thanks to you all for joining us. Thank you, Joe Humm, for joining us on the show today. Thank you to TrackPath for giving us a great tech corner, and thank you all for being here. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next week.
So long.
Bye.